one that you definitely enjoy watching as we continue on with giving you all the information you need in order to feel like you're fulfilled and understand what's going on in the world of sports. Let's start out right now. I'm your host, Donovan McNabb, joined with Armando Segura. We're going to hit it hard as we go into college football to start, where the talk right now of what's going on with Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan right now is ranked one of the top 3 schools in the country by the way that they've been playing. J.J. McCarthy is a Heisman Trophy candidate. Their running back Corum is coming back off of an injury, but still playing at an elite level. Defensively, they've shown that they can play with anyone and have a few pros on that team from the words that I've been given by a lot of the scouts, as well as just from the eye test. But more importantly, the conversation has been about what's going to happen to Jim Harbaugh. Now, if you don't know and you haven't been paying attention, there's been a sign stealing situation going on in the Big Ten where so-called a guy that's been hired by the Michigan University football team has been traveling around spying on other teams that Michigan has been playing against to write down and copy their signs for the football team to get an advantage, so to speak, to understanding what they're doing on different plays and be able to have an answer. Armando, in your eyes, do you see this as a problem? Do you see this as blown out of proportion? Or will the hammer come down on Jim Harbaugh?
Oh, man, I wish I had a hammer handy for, I wish I had a hammer handy for, kind of props. No, yeah, of course the hammer is going to come down. And it's as we sit here, Thursday morning taping this, it hasn't yet. And everybody's predicting that it will. He is likely going to get suspended. The question by the Big Ten, the question is for how long. It could be, 3 games, which is what the Big Ten auspices of their rule book says that they can do. It could be more. Let's go beyond that, because I was looking up Michigan yesterday as I was doing all my due diligence for this segment. And I saw that the Michigan Law School, Donovan, is a top 10 law school in the country, according to U.S. News and World Report. So Michigan produces a lot of lawyers. And my guess is that Michigan will not go quietly into the night without a lot of lawyers getting involved. Whatever the Big Ten does, whatever happens here in the next 24 to 72 hours, a lot of lawyers on Michigan's part are going to come at the Big Ten and the Big Ten commissioner, whomever, with major guns in their holster. They're not bringing a knife to a gunfight. They're going to come out, all barrels loaded. And what it's going to turn into is a lot of fun for us, a lot of fodder. Right. But I don't think Harbaugh is going to go, okay, you got me, you suspend me. I don't think that's the way it's going to go. They are going to defend themselves, and they are going to defend themselves aggressively.
Well, I think they have to, and it's rightfully so, because this is my experience with college football and NFL football. They're very similar. Is it an advantage? It could be. Is it something that's blown up way out of proportion? Absolutely it is. Because everyone in every league, no matter if it's college or NFL, finds a way to try to get an advantage. And if you're doing the same signs and everyone is starting to pick up on your tendencies, then yes, I'm going to watch and see what you do. Now, as far as college and NFL is concerned, while I played, we had, I guess, what people would look at as an advantage, because if we see a sign that's been going over and over and over again, yes, we have people that are watching for different tendencies, what you may do. Your coach, if he's sitting there and he doesn't have the menu in front of his mouth, and he's talking through the earpiece. And yes, we'll pick up on that. We're lip readers. We're also sign readers. And so we know that you're bringing a safety blitz because you've sent that sign out to your defense, and we have that answer. Yeah, we're going to be able to pick up on that as well. But this is the thing that bothers me through this whole deal is I think it's because it's Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines while we're blowing this thing up. If it was Nick Saban, it would be the same thing. Kirby Smart, it would be the same thing. But if this was the Indiana Hoosiers or the Purdue Boilermakers or the Temple Owls, we would not be talking about this. And we wouldn't. And I think for what we're seeing, it's a little bit of, I think it's a funny situation because everyone now has to give their take on it. But it puts so much onus and pressure on the presidents of the Big Ten to have to suspend him possibly for 4 games because he's already been suspended for 2 games. But if he gets suspended for another 2 games, it's not going to be enough. If he gets suspended for 4 games, it won't be enough. And if the Michigan Wolverines find themselves in a playoff run and possibly win a championship, how would that dark cloud be over the Michigan Wolverines?
Right. And so the Big Ten sent Michigan a letter saying, we're looking at you. We're looking at the side eye, and we think you did something wrong. And Michigan had 24 hours to respond, and they did. And the beauty of it is, once you get the back and forth, people start tripping all over themselves. Michigan's response, in part, read as follows, as reported by Yahoo Sports. It's highly dubious that a junior analyst's observations about the other side's signals would have a material effect on the integrity of competition. What? What? First of all, the junior analyst obviously had an effect because you first you suspended him and now he's gone. The junior analyst was on your sideline. The junior analyst was on the headset, and whenever he spoke into the headset, the offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinator would perk up and start talking into their menu vigorously. It's like it looked like the junior analyst had a big role on game day, and the junior analyst at times stood right next to Jim Harbaugh. So that's a bad look. Secondly, I mean, it's not a big deal. They also went and said the other guys are doing it too. They said that Ohio State and Rutgers colluded to steal their signs and disseminate that. That's the, hey, yeah, I ran the red light, but other people are running the red light defense. And that doesn't work. I'm sorry, that doesn't work.
It's not going to work, but if they have evidence of that, then that's something that they can use as credible evidence. Because I think, in a sense, this is college football. Like, this is something, it's just like baseball. If I'm a coach, yes, I hire some other coaches that are doing a specific job. I might hire a coach that works with the infielders, works with the pitchers, works with the catchers, work with the outfielders. I got a couple graduate assistants that are, just kind of there and learning, but they're specifically watching the third base coach over there, looking to see what signs they're giving, or watching the coach that's giving the signals to the catcher to throw whatever pitch. And so maybe I can signal whatever needs to be out to the batter, a la the Houston Astros by hitting the trash can for Armando, who may not even know that about baseball. These are things that happen in sports. So I just think from where we are, from a standpoint of understanding what's going on in the world, and I'm awaiting it just like everyone else, but I just think it's blown way out of proportion. It's my opinion. That's the way that I feel. And I think it will come down in a sense of possibly him being suspended for 2 or 3 games. But they really have to be specific on what games those are. Because I believe they play Penn State this weekend, if I recall. And they have Ohio State coming up in the next couple weeks. So if they specifically say that you can't coach in certain games, then now it becomes personal to me that you're specifically sitting them out of those particular games for a reason.
So let me take a different tact here, because as we've seen for years and years, the NCAA really loves institutions of higher knowledge that self-report, that that raise their hand and say, I did this, I need to be punished, and then the punishment gets shrunk down a little bit. I would say to you that it would be brilliant by Michigan, who is trying to win a national title and believes it has a national title type team, to kind of step in front of the Big Ten, step in front of the commissioner, step in front of the NCAA investigation that'll take about 4,700 years, and say, look, we're going to discipline Jim Harbaugh ourselves. We're going to step in and suspend him, on the idea that Jim Harbaugh, if your team is good enough, they're going to win without Jim Harbaugh, but then you get him back for the college football playoffs. You get him back in time to win what is the ultimate goal. And my question to you is, now you are, my understanding is, because you've bragged about it many, many times, a board member, a trustee at a major NCAA institution. You are big in certain institutions of higher learning,
right?
Syracuse. And so if you were a board member at Michigan and they presented you with the idea of, hey, let's self-discipline before these other dudes get to us, what would your reaction be? I get the feeling that it's like, hell no, but I want to get you on the record.
On the record, and me being a former athlete, I would definitely say no. We should let this process kind of work itself out. I think they will see that it's much more. It's not as big as they think it is. And if he suspended 2 games, at least we get a chance to probably get through our tougher games, and then maybe have him sit out the last 2 games or whatever games that they decide to choose. Also, from an experience standpoint, the same thing that I mentioned, I just think that it's blown way out of proportion, because this is what everybody's doing. And the fact that it feels almost personal that they pointed the finger right at Harbaugh. Now, don't get me wrong, they have video of the guy who was at Central Michigan. They had him at a couple other spots. But this is the thing that's funny to me. So are we just allowing anybody on the sideline in the school's apparel? Like, how did they not know who the guy was? How did he get the coaching polo shirt, the coach's hat, him standing right next to the coaches, if this is the video that they have? So is he working with other universities? Or is this just something that we're saying, oh, well, he was on Michigan's sideline, and so he was able to get all of these other schools information of what signals they're sending, what it means, what is it saying, and then report back? Because I can guarantee you this: if he was working with Michigan, I'm sure he was collecting checks from someone else, from a couple other schools, of what Michigan was doing and what some of these other schools that he was at was doing.
Eventually, this guy is going to talk.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, if I am Jim Harbaugh, if I am the University of Michigan, I know he's going to talk. I know what the truth is. If I'm going to defend myself, I better do it with the idea that he's going to talk. And whatever he knows is going to get out there. I better make sure that my narrative fits, whatever he might say. Because if he talks and kind of like, pulls back the curtain and I'm naked, I better get myself some clothes. That would be very bad, because I don't want to be showing everybody my nakitude in when Connor Stallions starts to yap. That's going to happen.
Well, it will happen, and let's just make sure that you're not naked or any of them are naked, because I don't think anybody really wants to see that. But since we're going to that phase and talking about coaches talking, let's move on with the New York Jets and Robert Saleh and being in an interview talking about his quarterback situation. Obviously, we've all seen how Zach Wilson has played. We've seen how poorly this offense looks from an offensive line standpoint, a play calling standpoint, a great defense. Robert Saleh was asked on radio about Trevor Siemian. Now, for those who don't know about Trevor Siemian is an experienced quarterback who played in Denver. I believe he went to Northwestern. I'll make sure I look up that, but I believe that he went to Northwestern. Smart quarterback, more of a backup type of quarterback. For them to even mention Trevor Siemian on radio was hilarious to me, of possibly being an answer. But when he was asked about possibly giving Trevor Siemian a chance and see what he can do, and Robert Saleh choked up a little bit and sounded like the guy from The Golden Child when he was hitting the thing. It was like, "Can I have the knife?" You know, where Eddie Murphy was like, "Please." But what are your thoughts on Robert Saleh? And then we'll get to the Chicago Bears and their coach of his comments through the press conference. But for Robert Saleh at this situation, is it getting better for him at all?
No, it's not getting better. They're worse off. I wrote on OutKick this week that a year later, after all this improvement and all these high expectations, a year later, the New York Jets are worse off than they were last year. Right. Without all those moves, and that is not an opinion. Their record is worse than it was at this time last year. And so the take in the greater New York metropolitan area is that Robert Saleh was caught off guard and he doesn't want to say something nasty about Zach Wilson. So he actually said, "I plead the fifth."
Right.
Right. When he was asked, why not Trevor Siemian? And everybody took it as Zach Wilson stinks. I would say to you, my experience dealing with NFL coaches for over 30 years is he pleaded the fifth because Trevor Siemian sucks. And so what is the man going to do? You big idiot nerd reporter, you. Haven't you seen Trevor Siemian play? He's not an answer. He knows the offense less than the guy that's been here for 2 years or 3 years. I'm going with the guy that has a better arm, that has more institutional knowledge, and is more mobile, because our offensive line stinks. And so he can't say that because he can't blow up Trevor Siemian like that. And you know, you can't blow up any player like that.
Right.
My sense is that that's where he was thinking, not necessarily, well, I don't know why I can't bench Zach Wilson. I don't think it was a Zach Wilson, thought in his mind. It was Trevor Siemian's not better than Zach Wilson. And I got to be honest with you. I agree with him.
I agree. Think he is. Yes, 100%. I'm right along with you. I mean, as much as analysts like to say, well, he has a great upside, or scouts like to say the upside of a player, I think we've gotten a pretty good look of what Zach Wilson is. And Zach Wilson is a guy, to me, right now his confidence is rattled. Two, can he play quarterback in this league? I still believe he can, but it depends on what level you're looking for him to play at. If you're a guy that has a strong run game, a strong defense, then yes, you can bring the ground and pound aspect of what Rex Ryan did with Mark Sanchez. He has the mobility. I don't understand why they're not getting him outside the pocket, utilizing his mobility, limiting the field, of being able to, hit the nice check down, or possibly hit a crossing route, or use his legs. That's the things that I'm looking at when you have a struggling quarterback. You have to find ways to get him outside the pocket. And everything that we're seeing right now, like Nathaniel Hackett maybe get enamored of what Zach Wilson is doing in practice. But at the end of the day, you have to understand what you have in game situation. And Zach Wilson is not Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson is a guy that he can create some splash plays by utilizing his athletic ability. Now, is Trevor Siemian on that level? Absolutely not. And Robert Saleh was correct by not blowing up Trevor Siemian, because Trevor Siemian is a career backup, and he was brought in to be the third guy, not to compete with Zach Wilson, with Aaron Rodgers, your starter. He was brought in to be the third guy because he is a smart guy. He's an intelligent quarterback that can be a career backup if he's not asked to play. And now he doesn't want him to play. So I just think in that regards, that was the best move for the Jets in the way Robert Saleh handled it going forward. But let's go to Chicago now, of their coach. And I didn't personally think that his comments about Justin Fields was that bad. I thought he kind of got caught up. He got caught up with saying he'll probably be doubtful. He's been back. His accuracy has gotten better. So he was trying to actually hype up Justin a little bit because he's seen what Tyler Vergat was doing. But he's trying to get his franchise guy to look like he's working his way back. Now, the question was asked, is he going to play? And basically at the end, he said, no, he's not going to play. So it wasn't that bad to me, but a lot of people took it as if he doesn't want Justin to get out there. He's going to roll with was it Bajet, the quarterback that's been out there. He's done some good things, but is he on Justin Fields' level? No, he's not.
Yeah, I didn't. I raised my hand as one of those people that didn't take it that way, because I took it like, what am I watching here? It was, okay, guys, look, Justin Fields not playing. Tyson Bagent is starting.
Right.
Cool. Thank you, coach. 2 seconds later. And, but that doesn't mean that Justin Fields not improving. He's getting better. We're looking forward to his return. So he's doubtful for this game.
Right.
Well, wait a second now. You just said he's not playing, but now you just said he's doubtful. So is he doubtful or is he out? Oh, no, he's doubtful. He's definitely doubtful. We're listing him as doubtful. Oh, okay. So he's doubtful. Yes. So he's playing. No, he's not playing. He's out. It's like this went on for like 10 minutes of he's doubtful, but he's out.
Right.
But then why don't you list him as out? Because he's doubtful. And what I would say to you is, an NFL head coach in season is the spokesman for the entire organization.
True.
He is the forward-facing person in the community, in the media, on the sideline, everywhere. He is the guy.
Right.
And if he cannot get something as fundamental as your player is doubtful or he's out, because the way he should have handled it was, guys, Justin is doubtful. And I'm done. I'm not talking about he's out, what my plans is, and this. He's doubtful. Watch the injury report that comes out in 10 minutes. We're done. We're done.
Yeah.
But this guy's coached for 30 years, Matt Eberflus, and he's good at what he does as a defensive coordinator.
Right.
But being the head coach is more than just being a coach. You have to be the spokesman, and he has struggled this year at times in that capacity.
Well, it's a lot of pressure for a lot of new head coaches, because you're put in a situation where you're not just leading the troops in the locker room, in the meeting room, and then come out on the football field. There's been a lot of questions that have been raised, from this season alone of taking over. Why is your defense so bad? You're a defensive-minded guy. Like, what's going on with your offense? Justin Fields isn't comfortable. Why isn't he getting outside the pocket? It seems like now we're trying to create something that's just not there with him. Then all of a sudden they get things rolling offensively. Defensively, they're creating some turnovers. And then Justin Fields has a game that's kind of subpar, but he gets hurt. Then you bring in your backup quarterback who no one has a clue of who he is. He wins a game. The whole team looks great. Everybody's riding the wave nationally. Oh, this guy, he looks like a sound quarterback. And then now they're trying to put Justin Fields on the back burner. Then reality happens. They go out to California, don't play well. Now, just decisions that you made, what's going on with your team. Then now we're at this particular point where so much pressure's on his shoulders. And I think what a lot of these coaches get caught up in is they're trying to be friends with the media. And so it's like trying to have a conversation, and then you have a couple media members that are just like, so is he going to play or not? And it's like, he's not going to play. And it's like, listen, say your piece, keep it short, and move on with the next question. They don't understand that as young coaches, new coaches, because now it's like trying to be the cool guy, and then now you got to put your foot down. And it's like, wait a minute, you just said something else not even 2 minutes ago. And so I look at it in a sense for an inexperienced coach. It's a little different than Robert Saleh, because Robert Saleh has been the head coach for the Jets, and he's had to go through this in New York, which is tough. But being in Chicago is also tough in the media as well. But that's my opinion on it.
Let me say this. If the Chicago Bears were good under Matt Eberflus, if they were winning,
he would get away with it.
Right. He could come out and say, guys, I'm coaching this next game in a thong, and, that's what I'm going to do. And questions. Right. And no one would question it because, hey, the coach who is kicking butt and whose team is winning a lot of games wants to coach in a thong. Okay. But the problem is on the field, the Chicago Bears are really bad. And so anything that Matt Eberflus says gets questioned. Anything, because your record is 2-7 or something. Yeah. It deserves to get questioned because you're really bad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Being from Chicago, it's about the Bears first. It's about the Bears, and football fans out there in Chicago are highly upset because of the way things have been going over the last couple of years. We felt like it would turn the corner a little bit with the new GM, some of the acquisitions this offseason, and coming into the season thought things would be a little bit better, and it just hasn't. But let's move out down south to Carolina with Frank Reich in his slow start. And the Carolina Panthers brought in Frank Reich after he was fired in Indianapolis, thinking they would change things around, get the first pick of the draft with Bryce Young. They just haven't fared well on offense. To me personally, they don't have the athletes at the offensive line, nor do they have the help outside besides Adam Thielen at the wide receiver position. Running back situation, I think they're okay, but they can enhance that. Defensively, they have some studs on defense, but they haven't been consistent. Is this it for Frank Reich, you believe? 1 year and done?
Look, I covered a one and done coach once upon a time. Cam Cameron went 1-15 1 year, and goodbye. See you later. Sorry. Go live off the contract. But you're not going to be on our sideline. And Frank Reich has way more gravitas than that, because he has taken teams to the playoffs, I think 3 times. And so it's hard to think Frank Reich gets only one chance in Carolina, who, by the way, plays the Bears tonight. And boy, am I excited about watching that game. Anyway, the point is, Frank Reich, it's not translating. They probably picked, it looks like so far, they picked the wrong guy to be their number one overall pick, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he's already given up the play calling on offense. The defense is like 26th in the NFL in scoring. A lot of things are going wrong in Carolina to where an impatient owner might say, wait a second, what? And so I wouldn't dismiss it out of hand as he's a first-year coach. Whatever happens is fine. We have to monitor this situation.
I think we do have to keep an eye on it. I'm gonna mention something that you brought up in that whole conversation of if they're wondering if they made the right choice. And I'm gonna tell you from a personal standpoint, I'm gonna tell you why I think they picked Bryce Young. Because remember when the Mannings came out and they were, this whole conversation and some of these analysts were talking about that CJ Stroud did not go to the Manning camp. When they came down on CJ Stroud, talking about he turned down the Manning family and he should have been there. Bryce Young was there, blah, blah, blah. And basically CJ Stroud told everybody that I was preparing myself for the NFL draft and preparing myself to be ready. And everyone kind of, how could you turn down the Mannings? And everyone made it as if CJ Stroud was a bad guy. Not a bad quarterback, but a bad guy. He's to himself. He's kind of arrogant, whatever it may be. Well, now they're on the football field. And CJ Stroud is an MVP candidate. Let me repeat that one more time for those who are listening. CJ Stroud is an MVP candidate. He's number one right now for Rookie of the Year in my eyes. The way that he's changed things around on the offensive side for the Houston Texans has made them really relevant in the AFC South. They're 4-4 right now. Statistically, he has less than, I believe, 3 interceptions. He's got double-digit touchdowns. His QB rating is up there, I think, in the top 10. Yards, he's in the top 10 or top 6. And he just looks the part. Not as a rookie, but he looks the part. So now I think the comparison with everybody between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, that question is always going to come up because the one and two quarterbacks are always compared to each other throughout their career. Did Carolina pick the right guy? And so from a personal standpoint, Armando, I'll ask you, do you think CJ Stroud would have been better in Carolina's offense than Bryce Young?
I like both of those guys. I thought coming out.
I agree.
Right? I mean, I was a little concerned, and I still remain that way about Bryce Young's size. His size', because of durability, right? It's a big boy sport, and he's not a big boy. He is like 5'11", 6 foot maybe, and kind of thin and not exactly super quick mobile to get out of the way. Right. And he's already been injured this year. So there's that. So I like CJ Stroud a little bit more because he's a little bit bigger, but I like them both. Right. And you raise an interesting question. Would CJ Stroud, who's thrown 14 touchdown passes, only 1 interception, he's on pace to tie Tom Brady. Tom Brady, who in 2016 threw 28 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions. So it's the same interception touchdown ratio. And Tom Brady did it like in year 16 of his career. This is game 7 or 8 of CJ Stroud, and he's right there. Dude, I don't know if you put CJ Stroud in Carolina, he is that good. But what he did the other day, 470 yards and like brought the team back in a fourth quarter comeback with 40 seconds to play, the winning touchdown pass. That was like grown up, 10-year veteran type stuff. And it's hard to believe that he would be struggling just because of the system.
Well, I mean, again, let me give a shout out to D'Amico Ryan as well, being a young coach coming in, playing in Houston. Obviously, played also a couple other teams in the NFL. Was under Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator at San Francisco. Robert Saleh then took the head coach. He took over for the job. Now being the head coach, big kudos to the way that he's brought the energy and preparing this organization and those players to be ready to compete each and every week. So it's been exciting. But as far as the MVP candidate is concerned for CJ Stroud, I love what he's doing. I think he's on pace and he should be mentioned with some of the top players in the league. But let's stay on that MVP race. In your eyes, give me your top 3 MVPs right now in the NFL, Armando.
So, look, I think Lamar Jackson right now at the halfway point. It's 272 games. We've played 136. We are exactly at the halfway point. Lamar Jackson is my guy.
Number one.
Because to me, MVP is not necessarily the best stats. It's you're on a great team or very good team, and if you're off that team, the team collapses. The Ravens are a great team right now. They have absolutely bottom spanked a couple of division leaders the last couple of weeks, and in Seattle and somebody else that they beat very badly, Detroit. Right. But if you take Lamar Jackson off that team, they're not even a middling team. And we know this. Why? Because the last 2 years he's come off that team with injuries at the end of the year, and they became what? A middling team. So to me, he's the guy. Tua is in the conversation. Of course, Mahomes is in the conversation. I don't think there's any defensive player who's in the conversation right now.
You wouldn't put TJ Watt in there?
No, I wouldn't, because I mean, he's in the top 5, maybe the top 7.
Yeah.
But if the Pittsburgh Steelers had Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, who would be their most valuable player?
Patrick Mahomes.
So if you can't be your own team's most valuable player, how are you going to be the league's valuable player? I guess my brain works funky ways like that. I'm so sorry.
Well, look, let me add to that. I'll add to that, and I'll say my top 3 are. It's hard because I love the Lamar Jackson pick. The Lamar Jackson pick, I think what may hurt him will be, I think, the start. But you can say the same thing about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, the start of the season to where they are now, I think Lamar has a lot more on the resume over the last 4 or 5 games. I think Joe Burrow is more in the last 3.5, 4 games. And so I have both of them in my top 3. I also have AJ Brown in that range. And I put AJ Brown instead of Jalen Hurts because Jalen hasn't played the way he's played last year. And expectations are a lot higher coming into that next season. And he hasn't played up to that. Is he a top 5 candidate? Oh, absolutely. Jalen Hurts and Tua, I think, round out the top 5, where you have AJ Brown to me is number 1. Lamar Jackson is number 2. Joe Burrow is number 3, and then Jalen and Tua. And I put that in a sense where people say, well, what about Tyreek Hill? I think what Tua has done so far versus what they want to look at the losing teams. But also I look at the winning teams. He had a great chance of beating the Philadelphia Eagles. There was a drop ball by Tyreek Hill that would have put them, I think, tied the game or put them less than 3. There were a couple calls that should have been made that they didn't make with pass interference call to Cedric Wilson on the sideline that would have kind of changed things around for Tua. But when I look at what A.J. Brown has done so far, I think A.J. Brown has continued to be a focal point, but being effective in that offense. His relationship on the field with Jalen Hurts. And I mentioned something early on where I thought the offense changed after the spat on the sideline with Nick Sirianni, A.J. Brown. Then, obviously, Jalen came in. And that led to, I think that was the Minnesota game. then they didn't play very well. And then the Jets game, we all seen that it just kind of imploded. And then after I made the comment, remember, things started to open up a little bit more. Devontae started getting the ball. Dallas Goedert started getting the ball. Then all of a sudden, now you got your running back starting to be a little bit more effective. So he's still coming out with 6 catches, over 125, because I think he has had a record for 5 or 6 games with 125 or more. But yet still other people are starting to step up. And so I love the consistency of what A.J. Brown has done. Lamar Jackson has been outstanding, and I'm so glad he's answering the critics that continuously talk about his passing, and it's about winning and losing, and people need to understand that. Joe Burrow has been amazing in the last 3.5, 4 games. And then I mentioned Jalen and Tua. So I think I'd put A.J. Brown number 1 in my eyes.
So maybe you should be the MVP, because it's when you said that AJ Brown was getting too much attention because of his sideline antics.
Right.
Then things changed a little bit. But
right.
3 things. Number 1, Tyreek can't be the league MVP when he's not his team's MVP. He is maybe the first or second best wide receiver in the NFL right now. But the Miami Dolphins can win without him. They cannot win without Tua. Number 2, the MVP voting happens, and I know because I'm a voter, happens the week right after the season. It's like 2 days after the end of the regular season. That's when you vote, or that's when we vote. And so Joe Burrow's start, Lamar Jackson's start, that was a long time ago.
Right.
For me anyway. So I consider the current thing. Joe Burrow has a good excuse. He was injured. It's not like he was sucky and all of a sudden, the light bulb came on. No, the guy couldn't run by his own admission. So I would kind of let Joe Burrow get a pass on the bad start. That's just me. And I matter because I have a vote. And then the other thing is on Lamar, the whole idea that he's not a good passer. Do you know who leads the NFL in pass completion percentage?
Yes. Lamar. But this is the thing. This is the funny thing you bring it up. If you look at him over the years, he's been effective passing the ball. Now, it doesn't matter if he's effective passing to receivers or tight ends, because that's been a staple of their offense. They can't seem to have their whole receiving core healthy. And so I don't look at it in the sense of that. I laugh when people want to talk about if Lamar is a passer. Lamar's a winner. At the end of the day, it's about winning. When you're effective in making those 3 plays in the game to help your team win, that's what makes quarterbacks who they are. I mean, if we want to look at numbers, we'll look at Justin Herbert. But nobody's putting Justin Herbert in the MVP category. Like, not to slight Justin Herbert by any means, but it's not about the numbers. It's about winning and losing and making those 3 plays in the game to help your team win.
Justin Herbert, it just cracks me up, that guy. The big, sorry, my bad.
Sorry. You took it there. But make sure you tune in to the 5 Spot. We will continue to hit more and more topics as we go along. There's going to be such an important weekend throughout the rest of college football, decision-making coming down with Michigan, some big and critical games this weekend for college football. The NFL, we'll see if the NFC can continue to stay strong as the AFC now starts to climb. Answers will be thrown out there with the Kansas City Chiefs and their wide receiver position. Who's number 1? What's going to happen? But make sure you tune in Tuesday here at the 5 Spot.